Wojnarowski, reporting the breaking news that Giannis has been named MVP of the 2019 season, this being his second consecutive. I'll start with you, your reaction.
Well, I'm happy for him. He played hard. He was the reigning league MVP, and he came out and tried to prove that he was worthy of it, that he deserved it. He averaged like 29 and 13 during the regular season. Milwaukee was the #1 seed. They were thriving before the last weekend prior to the play being stalled because of the pandemic. So I understand from a numbers perspective why he would get this award. It was very predictable that it would happen, but he did not get my vote, and I have a vote. I voted for LeBron James. I thought that LeBron James deserved to be league MVP this year. I thought the way he led the Lakers, being the #1 seed in the Western Conference, which is superior to the East. I think the way that he has led this team, the way that he has had them buy in from day one of this NBA season, I can't say enough about the leadership that he has exhibited and exuded throughout this year. No matter what personnel, no matter what personalities, or whatever the case may be, him playing alongside Anthony Davis, but still doing the things that he did, leading the league in assists, playing the minutes that he played at age 35, his 17th season in the league. Like I've said on many, many occasions, I could be critical of shot selection from time to time. I could be critical of his three-point shooting. I could be critical of sometimes his hesitancy to get to a free throw line, et cetera, et cetera. But what you can never be critical of is that this man is a superstar personified, and he has never cheated us. Every time he steps into an arena, he's always ready to play. Sometimes he plays better than others, obviously, but he's always in shape. He's always in condition. He's always conditioned, rather. He's always focused. He doesn't cheat us. And I think that when you see the Western Conference that he plays in and the challenges that he had available to him, and knowing that he was gearing for the postseason as well, but still did what he did during the regular season, I don't think there's any question in my mind that LeBron James deserved the MVP. I understand why Giannis got it, because everybody's looking at numbers and the fact that Milwaukee was the #1 overall seed. But I never thought that he deserved it over LeBron James this year. To me, LeBron James is my MVP. But I'm happy Giannis is a good guy, and I wish him nothing but the best.
You know what, Stephen A., I hate when I come on this show and I have to agree with you. I really come on this show to argue with you a lot of the times, but when you're right, you're right. Look, congratulations to Giannis. Do I think he should have won the MVP? No, I said he's the most dominant player. If you want to go on analytics and all these PERs that this new age has came up with, and he set records like, you know, Kareem and Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain and all that. But when you talk about the most valuable player, you got to look at the situation. And my most valuable vote was LeBron James. I mean, if you just think about the impact that he had on this Los Angeles Lakers team, #1 in the tough Western Conference. You had multiple guys, his peers, guys that was not on his team. When they were asked, who is your MVP, they said LeBron James, because they know the impact that he brings on the team. Now, I think that what ended up happening was that because he have another top 5 guy in Anthony Davis, that he got discredited a lot, and guys said that he had AD, and that probably persuade people from voting for him. But, you know, it just, I don't understand the MVP voting anymore. I don't know the criteria of it, because every year the goalpost is shifted and moved in different directions. Because, you know, no disrespect to the great Steve Nash, but I could recall at a time, you know, where he averaged around about 15 points and 10 rebounds, and Kobe Bryant was playing with Smush Parker and Kwame Brown, and he carried the Lakers to the playoffs, averaging around 35 points a game, and he was the clear-cut MVP at the time. But they said that Steve Nash was the most valuable, because what would he be without the Phoenix Suns? I said, well, look at the talent that he had around him. He had better talent than what Kobe had. So, you know, I don't know the criteria for the MVP no more. I don't know, because it gets shifted every single year. It's because it is. Because one could make a case that when LeBron James was in the Eastern Conference, he could have won it 8 straight years in a row. But hey, who am I to say it? But, you know, congratulations to Giannis. I'm pretty sure he could celebrate it at his crib, hold a press conference at his house, because that's where he at right now. And LeBron James, we worrying about the bigger things. He going to get that Finals MVP, because that's what matters the most.
Yeah, I have a feeling LeBron's going to be taking home a title this year. Maybe not the MVP, but, you know, maybe a finals championship. Okay, well, Perk, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for everything. We'll see you soon. All right.
And by 5. Celtics have had double-digit leads in each of the 2 losses to the Heat. Overall, they've lost 4 times this postseason when leading by double figures. We saw that trip up the Clippers, obviously, in a big way. Boston's led by double digits for a total of 18-46 this series. Meanwhile, the Heat's largest lead is 8, and the Celtics' frustration is palpable. Here's Brad Stevens.
Guys were emotional after a hard game, hard loss.
Tim Bontemps. Brad, what happened in the third quarter?
We pulled apart, and we didn't play well. And they did a good job. We're not beating this team if we're not completely connected on both ends of the court. So got to get back to being that, which we've been at times, but right now they're a better team, and we're going to have to fight to get back into this series.
Sounds like it got heated. Malik Andrews from the Bubble will join us a little bit later with more reporting on that. We get to welcome in a man who's now officially a teammate, man. It feels great to say that, Vince Carter. Welcome to the squad. You make us better immediately. And we talked to Tim Legler about that zone in the second half. I wonder what you saw in terms of its impact. How did it change the game?
Scott, shout out to the coach. Coach Spoelstra is like, he one thing he said, he's like, we're not playing well, and some people talk about a scheme. Well, he's going off a feel, and he could feel in the first half, Kemba Walker was rolling. He was getting it done, and he was getting anything he wanted, and you don't want a guy like Kemba Walker to get going. So what does he do? He comes out with a zone defense, and he just wanted to junk up the game. Well, after junking up the game and seeing it works, well, let's stick with it. And Leg said it. We're just going to ride this until it doesn't work anymore. And that's what he started to do, and they got back into it. They started hitting shots. The third quarter was Bam. Bam was rolling 15 points in the third quarter. And, of course, what Duncan Robinson was doing, he spread the floor, opened things up for somebody like Bam to get easy rolls to the basket. The lob was there and there. You're saying, how come somebody is not stepping up? Well, you can't step up if somebody like Duncan Robinson is shooting lights out like he was.
You played every role in the league, right? From superstar to the old head that could teach some of the young guys. But as you watch a guy like Jimmy Butler is a star that doesn't have to, I just asked Duncan about it, doesn't have to hunt shots, doesn't really care if he gets shots, and then makes so many winning plays. When you talk about culture, which frankly I think is an overused word, but when you talk about culture, how much does Butler reflect what Miami is about?
Well, let me say this. First of all, that's a gift. All the time. You want to get your guys involved early. Get them going, because if they're rolling, if Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero are shooting threes and you have to stay home on them, well, guess what Jimmy gets to do in the second half and or the fourth quarter? Take over and take all the shots that he needs. So the culture there is understood. Jimmy Butler brings his style, but he walks in understanding the Miami Heat culture. They pass the ball, they play one way, they play hard, and that's what Coach Spoelstra said. He said we weren't playing hard in the effort. It's not the scheme, it's the effort. So he put in the zone defense in the third quarter, and they brought the effort on both ends.
Well, Vince, I'm just happy you're on our squad, man, because you're a free agent. Everybody wanted you, so I'm happy to have you along, and I look forward to talking more throughout the remainder of the playoffs. All right?
Absolutely. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, Vince Carter. Malik Andrews, by the way, with more on that story from the Boston locker room, which obviously was pretty passionate. We do your research on the Heat. Less than 2 minutes to go in the first half, down 17, matching their largest postseason comeback in franchise history, along with a 17-point comeback against the Thunder in the finals, 2012. That was Game 4. And the deficit was entirely erased in the third quarter alone. And, in fact, they led by outscoring the Celtics 37-17. Second time they've outscored a team by 20 and a quarter these playoffs. Also did that Game 3 of their series against the Bucks. And what a night from Duncan Robinson, who you heard from a little bit earlier. His third game with at least 6 threes, carried the Heat in that department as the rest of the team. How about 9:40 start times every night, Steve?
That works.
Get out and explore the city. Explore the space. All right, hey, welcome. This is SportsCenter. Scott Van Pelt from Washington, D.C., Heat up 2-0. We're with you until 11 o'clock Eastern time. It was a tale of two halves. Looked like Boston was going to try to run away quarter, and that has been the story for the Celtics in the postseason. They've been outscored in the third quarter in 8 of the 9 postseason games. The last 9, I should say, and the point differential here from Game 1 to Game 2 was the story. But again, as we saw, it was a coin flip late, and now Miami has a 2-0 lead in the Eastern Conference Finals. And Tim Legler stops by. And Tim, as you and I are talking here, watching this game, I'd like to leave you by yourself to just do your job. But as I come in and we talk, and you point out, what did the Heat do out of nowhere that turned this game?
Yeah, so I talk about the Heat zone defense all the time. They probably play it on a given night in the regular season when I watch them, Scott, 30% of the game.
Okay.
I didn't see it at all in the first 2 rounds. And in fact, I said there was a big key going up against Philly in the first round because of Embiid and Simmons being bottled up. But they didn't play it at all. And I'm saying to myself as I'm watching Heat the first 2 rounds, is he just not willing to let people scout this? Is that what he's doing? Because I couldn't understand where it was. Here it is. Maybe he was saving it for this team because the Miami Heat played zone defense almost the entire second half and erased a 17-point deficit. And it really did affect Boston in a dramatic way. It bottled them up. They didn't attack it right. They had nobody in the middle of the zone most of the game. And that's where you have to beat a zone, in the middle and on the short baseline. They didn't have anybody there at all. So they played into Miami's hands, but it was definitely a huge turning point in this game tonight, Miami's zone.
As is often the case throughout the run of a playoff series, you lean on your superstar players. Superstars mostly win you championships. Butler makes star plays, remarkable defensive plays. But you don't win 16 games in the postseason without significant contributions from supporting role players. What did Miami get from others in this one?
Well, how many average fans, if you asked them on the street, who's the leading scorer for the Miami Heat in the postseason?
I'm hosting this show, and I don't know the answer.
They're going to say Jimmy Butler, and maybe somebody will say Bam Adebayo. Yeah, I know Bam's pretty good. He's an all-star. It's
probably Dragic. Yeah,
Dragic is their leading scorer in the postseason, and he's had better statistical years than this regular season. This is the best I've ever seen Goran Dragic play. So you start with Dragic. You get guys like Hero, who now is a playmaker and can also score the basketball. And you look at what they did in the third quarter. Jimmy Butler is a star player that can go the longest stretches I've ever seen without really seeming to care about shooting the basketball. And yet they unleash a 37-point quarter in the third quarter. And Jimmy Butler hardly touches the ball. It speaks to what you were saying. They share it. They see everybody. They don't miss an open man typically. And everybody on the floor is a threat. Very few teams could say that.
How rare is it to be the superstar that, because the key point is doesn't care if he, not doesn't care, cares a lot, but doesn't care if he shoots the ball. That's unusual, isn't it?
I mean, it's not how many star players are going to go 6-8 minutes, not get a decent look, and not be somewhat upset about that. No, none of them. Jimmy Butler, and to not care, maybe not the best way to put it. It's he's reading the game, and as long as it's working with other guys, he really doesn't care about his numbers. That's really what I meant.
Exactly.
And he's still playing hard at the other end. And then he knows, I'm going to have a moment here where you're going to need me. And he had huge defensive plays late in this game that led to some offense for him as well. He had a big take in a one-on-one situation against Tatum. So he knows he can go to that well when he needs to, which is a very rare thing for guys to have 5-6 shots like he had tonight. I think 7 shots going into the fourth quarter. Most stars, maybe the rhythm's not there tonight if you do that. This doesn't seem to be the case with Jimmy Butler. And yet, everybody else is picking up the slack, and you just see how connected they are, man. This team really likes playing together.
Yeah, and Adebayo spoke to it the other night. Duncan Robinson is going to join us here in a bit, and I'm going to get his take on